In Greek mythology, there was a centaur who defied the reputation of his kind. While most centaurs were known for their wild tempers and drunken chaos, Chiron was the exception, calm, composed, and profoundly wise. Unlike the others, he was not just half man and half horse. He was also half sage. Known as the wounded healer, Chiron had once been accidentally struck by a poisoned arrow, leaving him in eternal pain. But instead of letting his suffering consume him, he turned inward, seeking knowledge in medicine, philosophy, music, and ethics. His pain became the root of his wisdom. When Achilles was born, the son of a mortal king and a sea goddess, he was destined for greatness. But his mother Thetis didn't leave that destiny to chance. She understood that power without discipline and talent without training was a danger not just to others, but to the self. So she brought her infant son to Chiron, not just to learn how to fight, but to learn how to become. Chiron raised Achilles in a cave on Mount Pelion, far from the chaos of men and gods. There, the young boy learned the arts of war, but also the balance of the lyre, the healing craft of herbs, the logic of ethics, and the restraint of reason. He was trained to think before he struck, to understand before he judged, and to lead not just with force, but with foresight. Today, everyone easily remembers Achilles for his might, the near-invincible warrior of Troy. But that legend didn't begin with strength. It began with structure, with a mentor. Without Chiron, Achilles may have still gone to war, but he would have done so as a brute, not a hero. It's easy to look at Achilles and see a born warrior, but the truth is, he was a made one. What made him wasn't just strength or divine blood, it was proximity to someone wiser. And that's the essence of mentorship. Not just instruction, but impression. Not just learning through words, but through presence. Unfortunately, in today's world, we often glorify the lone wolf. We're told to figure it out ourselves, to hustle, to grind, to be self-made. In fact, one of the most popular quotes by Andrew Tate, a social media celebrity, is, "When God wants to make a man great, he isolates him." And while there may be some truth to that, some of the most powerful transformations in history didn't happen in isolation. They happened in relationships. Take the story of Soichiro Honda, the founder of Honda Motors, for example. Today, Honda is Japan's third largest car and motorbike company. Born into poverty in 1906, Soichiro had no academic brilliance and barely scraped through school. But what he lacked in grades, he made up for in curiosity. He was obsessed with machines. As a boy, he'd spend hours in his father's bicycle repair shop, not just helping, but learning by doing. His turning point came when he moved to Tokyo at 15 and took a position, unpaid, cleaning floors and babysitting at Art Shakai, a car repair shop. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't what he dreamed of, but he stayed. And soon enough, when the shop was understaffed after an earthquake, Honda was asked to help with repairs. That's when his talent emerged. And that's when a mentor named Yuzo Sakakibara stepped in. Yuzo didn't just teach Honda how to fix engines. He brought him into the world of motorsports, business strategy, and invention. Yuzo was the ideal mentor to Honda. Together, they built a championship-winning race car. That exposure was everything. Yuzo's mentorship didn't make Honda successful overnight, but it gave him a compass and a context. It helped him channel his raw energy into focused innovation. When Honda eventually built his own factory, then rebuilt it after wartime bombings, and again after earthquakes, he wasn't just building machines. He was building on memory, on lessons, on the back of what had been passed down to him. That's what mentorship is. Not a shortcut, but a structure. Not a replacement for hard work, but a refinement of it. You still do the climbing, but someone hands you the rope, and you can never get that help in isolation. As the author Cormac McCarthy once wrote, What the pupil must learn, if he learns anything at all, is that the world will not bend to him. So, he must find someone who has seen where the world bends and learn from him. Listen, there are really only two paths to mastery. Number one is long, lonely, and filled with trial, error, and scars. Number two also demands effort and pain, but it's guided. It's the path where you borrow someone's hindsight, so you don't have to repeat their mistakes to learn their lessons. But the more important part of mentorship isn't just tutoring for skills. It reaches even the emotional core. Because before you can become something great, someone usually has to give you permission to believe that you can. It's the same dynamic you see in the wild. For example, most people assume baby elephants learn everything from their mothers. But survival, real survival, is passed down from the matriarch. She's the oldest, the wisest, and the one who remembers. She doesn't just know where to find water. She remembers where it was 10 dry seasons ago. She teaches the herd how to avoid danger, how to travel when the land turns against them. Without her, the group falters. Not because they aren't strong, but because they don't know. In other words, elephants don't just survive because of the genes they inherit. They also inherit memory through the presence of the older generations. And in the same way, what makes a human life resilient isn't always what's written in a book. It's the lived memory passed on by someone who's already survived the storms you're just now walking into. So, how do you actually find a mentor? The answer is simpler and more humbling than most people think. Don't look for someone who's just successful. Look for someone who has the kind of success you want, not just in skill, but in spirit, not just in results, but in character. The best mentors often don't advertise themselves as mentors. They're busy doing the work. So instead of asking, "Will you mentor me?" just show up, serve, watch closely, ask thoughtful questions, stay consistent. The right mentor will notice the right student, not because they're loud, but because they're ready. And when the time comes, become that person for someone else. Because what you pass on doesn't diminish what you've learned, it deepens it. Teaching doesn't deplete wisdom, it cements it. As Lao Tzu said, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When the student is truly ready, the teacher will disappear. That's the paradox of mentorship. It exists to make itself unnecessary. The goal isn't to keep you dependent, it's to make you whole. You were never meant to figure it all out alone. Even Achilles, the closest thing to a demigod, needed Chiron. Even the mighty elephant needs a matriarch to remember where the rivers are. Mentorship isn't modern, it's ancient, and it's essential. Every legacy worth building stands on the shoulders of someone who went before. The question isn't whether you need a mentor. The real question is, are you humble enough to follow and wise enough to pass it on?
Do like this video and subscribe to this channel. See you in the next video. Cheers!